sorted, so Everybody, and good afternoon. Welcome to our live stream for our week number 9 in research methods. Hope everybody is doing well and hanging in there. It's Wednesday, it is March 8th, and hopefully everyone can hear and see me just fine. Is everything coming through okay on your end? Just to double check. Wait just a second to make sure. Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, good. I'm so glad I'm on campus, and so I never know. But okay, wonderful. I'm glad you can hear and see me just fine. So we'll head over to Canvas together. We're going to take a quick look at a little bit of feedback from last week, which was week number 8. Let me make this brighter. And then we will look at what we have going on for this week, which is week number 9. And then I'll see if you have any questions. I'll give you some reminders and the extra credit question, and then we'll call it a day. And it looks like we have some more rain coming this weekend, which is crazy. We've gotten so much rain. My kids' softball keeps getting rained out. We finally had our first game on Monday night, but the games for this weekend, I don't know if they're going to happen. So we'll see. We'll see. But anyway, sorry, focusing back in. If we go back to last week, week number 8, just a couple of things about last week. So the discussion, nicely done for the most part. I really enjoyed your take on the college bookstore. This would be kind of a fun experiment if we actually got to do this, of trying to look at the sample versus the population and conducting a simple random sample and then one of the other kind of types of samples. A lot of you just did a beautiful job of identifying that the population is all of the books in the bookstore. The sample would be those 200 books. And then great job on answering questions 2, 3, and 4. Really nicely done. The biggest reason people lost points was just not really elaborating. Some of you, I wanted a little bit more, and that was the feedback I gave you in your grade. But a lot of you, beautiful job. And I think this is a topic that a lot of you seem to do pretty well with. And we're going to keep adding to everything, of course. Everything kind of builds on what came before, but nice job. Don't forget to continue replying to a classmate. Some of you are still forgetting to do that, and those are very easy 2 points to get. And if you're still not always getting 100%, add a little bit more, elaborate, and that's going to get you there. Yeah, the amount of rain that we've had this season has definitely been crazy. I completely agree with you. And the snow up in the mountains is wild. I can't believe how much snow some of the mountains got and how people are just kind of trapped under it. I've been watching all of those on TikTok and just seeing the people who are just building these elaborate like tunnels between houses because there's so much snow up there. It's pretty crazy. So I hope everyone is staying safe and staying dry and hanging in there, especially as we get a little bit more weather this weekend. So again, nicely done on the discussion. And exam number 2, again, really nicely done. A lot of you just did so fantastically, which makes me really happy. The high score was 100%, which is wonderful. There were, I believe, 2 or 3 of you who got 100%, which just makes me so happy to see. The low score was a 24%, so definitely quite a bit of a range there. But the average was a 90. So the average percent was a 90, which is an A. So a lot of A's, a lot of B's. Took on average 44 minutes for everyone to complete. You have an hour, so what that tells me is most of you had plenty of time. If you're fine that you're still kind of tight on time, maybe study and prepare a little more. Continue to use these as a learning opportunity. So if you're getting grades that you love and you're happy with, keep doing the same thing. If you wish you had done a little bit better, time to kind of shake things up. You still have 2 more exams in this class, so you could start studying a little earlier, study a little differently. A lot of people go week by week. So like for this week, you could be studying our chapter 10 that we're covering this week, and then add the next chapter next week, and so on. Whatever it is that works for you, keep doing it. If you wish you were doing a little bit better, change it up. If you ever want to meet with me on Zoom or in person, we can always schedule that if you want some suggestions and advice. But most of you, pats on the back, on the shoulder, right? You're doing a really good job, and I'm really happy to see so many of you getting it. This can be a little bit challenging, and a lot of you are doing a beautiful job. So nicely done. Let's move to week number 9, unless there are any questions, comments, thoughts, anything at all related to last week before we go to this week and chapter 10 and week 9 and all that kind of stuff. Oh, wait just a second just to make sure. I know you're always just a little bit behind me on here. I don't see anything yet, but if you think of something, obviously feel free to put that in the chat and I'm happy to answer it. Otherwise, week number 9, we are past the halfway point of the semester. I am only 16 days, 17 hours, and 8 minutes away from my cruise. I'm not counting or anything. I have a little countdown timer on my phone, which just keeps me excited. But for week number 9, we are looking at chapter 10. So as always, read chapter 10 in the textbook, go through my lecture for chapter 10, and then of course watch the lecture video to the PowerPoint slides for chapter 10. All of that is going to help you to understand the material. Let's take a quick look at the lecture together. Chapter 10, we're looking at simple experiments. We are going to introduce and start getting into experiments this week. And I think this is kind of a fun opportunity to be thinking about experiments. You're going to be thinking about a potential experiment you could conduct for our final project in here. So we're going to look at the criteria for establishing causation for experiments. What are variables? What are independent group designs and within group designs? Determining causality. So we're looking at experiments. If I do this, then what happens? Kind of manipulating and testing variables. On the Beyond the Book page, I have a little bit about how to conduct an experiment, the different steps that are involved, what happens after an experiment's been conducted, some kind of final thoughts related to that. And then finally on the last page, all of the key terms. And these are the terms that you'll need to know for chapter 10 for the next exam, which you probably don't want to think about yet, but in a few weeks it will come up. So again, make sure you read through all of that. It's going to help you to understand the material in addition to the textbook. Also watch my lecture video, right? So as usual, I have some PowerPoint slides. I'm lecturing on this chapter, kind of going through it. Hopefully that's really helpful for you. Is there a way to print the PowerPoints? So unfortunately, these are just posted on here. If you wanted to email me, I could email you the actual PowerPoint slides if you would like them. That's totally fine. You can send me a quick email and I'd be happy to do that. Otherwise, they're just on the lecture video. But you're welcome to email me, Susanna, and I'd be happy to send that to you if you would like. Or anybody if you would like. The discussion for this week, discussion number 9, related to chapter 10. As always, watch my little introduction video. Think about them as, mini papers, really, elaborate in your responses. Don't forget the peer response as always, 15 points in total. All the same stuff that you're hopefully kind of getting used to. But watch my video. And then the topic for this week, giving you a chance to play around with your own experimental design. I want you to come up with a topic that interests you. It doesn't have to be related to psychology. It can be related to anything. Let's say you really want to study something related to football, or maybe it is a psychology topic like how effective is EMDR, right? Whatever it is that interests you, you can come up with anything. And I want you to design a simple experiment. After you've come up with a clear idea and a design, you're going to describe your experiment by answering these 7 questions. So what is it that you're researching? What's your hypothesis? What do you want to know in your experiment? Number 2, what is the independent variable and its levels or conditions? And what is the dependent variable and how are you measuring it? Right? So if you want to know how effective EMDR is rather than just talk therapy, right? Then your effectiveness of the type of therapy would be your independent variable. And then your conditions would be EMDR versus regular talk therapy. And then how am I going to measure that? Maybe I give my participants a questionnaire. And so the responses on the questionnaire would be the dependent variable and how I am measuring that. How are you going to select your participants? I want you to give me some methods and procedures. We just talked a lot about random samples. Bring that knowledge back here. How are you going to collect your people? Is your experiment an independent groups or within groups design? Number 5 is your experiment a pre-test, post-test, post-test only, repeated measures, or concurrent design. This is all going to come from your reading and the lecture this week. What are your control variables? Is there anything that we could consider a confounding variable? And then what else will you do to ensure internal validity? Think of covariance, temporal precedence, counterbalancing, and all of the stuff that's talked about in the lecture and textbook this week. So be creative with this, have fun with it. You can come up with anything that you want to study and want to know, and then you're just going to kind of dissect it, think about it, write about it, talk about it for your responses this week. And then as always, don't forget to reply to a classmate. The other thing for this week, if we go back, and we are again here in week number 9, you do have a little self-assessment. So this is the second one of these that you've done. I just want you to kind of reflect. We've passed the halfway point. How do you feel about your grade? How are you doing in the class? Are you feeling good? Is there anything you need to change? This is your opportunity to kind of, think about that and be a little bit critical. If you're doing great, keep it up. If you wish you had done better, this is a good chance for you to kind of reflect on that. It's worth 5 points, but please be honest. Whatever your responses are, that's fine. Just be honest. You don't have to tell me what you think I want to hear. And then, of course, we will have a extra credit question here in a moment that I will give you. I do have a few reminders for you as well. Are there any questions for me? Kind of a standard week, right? Our chapter to read, our discussion to complete, a self-assessment, which is worth 5 points. And then don't forget about the extra credit, which I will give you here in a moment. While I'm waiting to see if you have any questions for me, let me post my reminders and things for you. Don't forget, as always, to double check your subscription status. Many of you have fallen off. Actually, very few of you are still subscribed. So if you have a chance to double check that, I would really greatly appreciate it. Again, it saves me time. There are about 15 of you in here and not too many of you subscribed. So if you could double check that, thank you. The other thing to remind you, our next, Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, March 15th at 12:30 p.m. like usual. So I'm putting that here in the chat just as a reminder that our next Twitch live stream will be next Wednesday, March 15th at 12:30 like always. We will have another one after that. When we get a little closer, I'll remind you. But at the end of the month, I am going on my cruise, and so there will be one live stream that we won't have on the 29th. But I'll remind you when we get a little bit closer, so don't worry about that for now. Otherwise, let me give you the Twitch extra credit question, kind of short and sweet today, and making sure you're all feeling good about everything. Here is the extra credit that I wrote out earlier. So I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat. This is our week number 9 Twitch extra credit question. And the question I have for you, and again, I'm putting it in the chat, what is the difference between independent groups design and within groups designs? So you can define them or kind of describes, totally up to you. But what is the difference between an independent group design and a within group design? And so when you're ready to answer that, you'll go over to Canvas. Since we're in week 9, you'll click on extra credit number 9. And so many of you are doing these, which is fantastic. It's great. That's a lot of points in the end. Click on Start Assignment at the top, and then you can type your response in the text box. As usual, hit Submit, confetti burst, and balloons today. And this is due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. like usual. So make sure you get going on the materials for this week. Don't forget the self-assessment to kind of reflect about where you're at. You followed all the instructions, but you had issues resubscribing. Yeah, I know it's not the most straightforward thing, so I appreciate you trying and even trying to figure it out. Thank you. And if you can't, you can't, but I appreciate the effort. And I appreciate so many of you being on here with me live, and thank you as well if you're watching this later. I hope these are helpful for you, kind of going over everything. I try and keep them short and sweet so that I'm not taking up too much of your time. But I always want to give you that opportunity if you have questions and to just kind of talk about things as we're going through. I think it's a wonderful way to check in with all of you. So I hope you're all doing well and hanging in there. I hope you're following along and feeling good about the materials. get going on the stuff for this week, and I'll hang out for a few minutes if you do have any questions for me. Otherwise, I will hope to see you next Wednesday at 12:30 at the same time as usual. So thank you so much. I'm going to minimize this. You too, be safe. Have a great week. And if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I am still definitely going to be here for a few minutes for you. You're welcome. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do really appreciate your company, and I'm glad that you were able to be here and join me. And of course, as always, this will be uploaded a little bit later. I'll make sure I upload it for you so that you can watch it if you weren't able to join me live. Yes, so there will be no live stream on the 29th. I will be in Belize, I believe, or Honduras on that day. So likely what will happen is I will just make like a little recording for you that week. Your other question, are you planning on having a project over spring break? No, you'll have a regular week. So spring break, there's no assignments whatsoever. So during spring break, you get the entire week off. There's nothing due. There's nothing to complete. Your task that week is to relax and recuperate and get ready for the last push of the semester. So there will be nothing due that week. And yes, on the 29th, we won't have a live stream. I'll probably just post a recording that week since I will be on a cruise in the middle of the ocean. And again, I am still here. If you have any questions, a few more weeks. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and close this up since it looks like almost everyone is gone. That way I can download it and upload it and all that fun stuff. But thank you again so much for being here, and I will see you all next week.